Welcome to the ADNA Presents. Today, we're very happy to have Deborah Lewis joining us. Thank you for joining us, Deborah.
Very welcome.
Thanks. What do you love about audio description?
So there's three things I actually really love about audio description. And one of them is that it is a service for people who are blind. And ever since I was a small child, I've been really fascinated by people who are blind. I've hung out with a lot of people who are blind. I've worked in the disability area for a long, long time. And I tend to relate to people who are blind more. And I don't know why. I just don't know why. But it is a service for them. And I enjoy doing that. And then the other thing is more about me. I really love learning. And when you're doing audio description, you have to delve deep into the subject matter of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it be describing the Statue of Liberty for the National Park Service or describing a show on television, then you're really listening to what they're doing, or describing a play. You really delve into what's going on and really learn about it. And you often will do some research to get more information about it because it just becomes so interesting to you. So I love that part of it. And then the other part I love is I love doing training. I love passing this knowledge on to people. And I have friends who say, "Why are you doing that? You're just creating your competitors." And no, I'm creating my friends, my colleagues, and the people who are going to follow after me because frankly, I don't think I'm going to live forever. I'd like to, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I think it's really important if you know how to do it and it's quality audio description, then I think it's important to pass it on.
That's great. And out the very gate, you said about relating in the sense of connection. And I find it fascinating how audio description helps that connection. Could you maybe help our audience understand the difference in audio description in those three different areas? Maybe some similarities, some differences?
Sure. Actually, audio description itself was sort of based and started in live theater because that's where it was easy. People had audience and people would go to things and then people would whisper in their ears. And it felt more like that would be a good place to start, would be in live theater. And that's how I learned audio description was out of a live theater background. And I did training in Ohio at the Ohio Theater Alliance. I wasn't living there at the time, but my mentor was living there and she said, "You're going to love this." And I was like, okay. So I came up and trained. But I really started doing a lot of live theater. So I worked in Atlanta for a long time doing live theater and then moved out to California and was still doing live theater. And live theater was the only thing I ever thought I would ever do in audio description. Actually, I never dreamt about doing other things at that point. There wasn't any other business in it that I knew of. And then I met Bill Patterson at one of the LEAD conferences, the Leadership Exchange in Arts and Disability through the Kennedy Center. And they have conferences every year, and we would meet each other, audio describers, but sign interpreters were there, and all the people in access services were there. We were all there, and we're still there. It's still going on, but we've been in a hiatus, of course, for the last couple of years. But we're back now this year, and we get together and we learn from each other. And so I met Bill Patterson, I don't even remember how many years ago, and his student had been my trainer. And he and I got to know each other really well. And he said to me at one point, he says, I really could use some help in doing some of these national parks. And I said, "Tell me more." And so the first national park he took me to was in West Virginia. And he really trained me right on the spot because he knew what I did in live theater. We hadn't even connected the fact that he trained the person who trained me, but he trusted what I knew. So he trained me how to write a script for national parks. And I did many national parks with Bill. I loved working with him. He was great. And eventually he said to me one day, "I'm going to retire." And I went, "Oh, no." He said, "Can I sell you the business?" I said, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay." So he sold me the business and I'm still applying to national parks. It's a little, there hasn't been as much work lately because of COVID. The last thing I did was the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. And that was huge. It took years. It took several years of going back and forth and doing pieces of it. I loved doing it. I just loved doing it. It was so full of history. I learned so much. And it's something that is there. My words, they did the actual recording there with actors, but I did all the writing and I was really excited about that. So I'm hoping I'll do more of that. But then through the years, I feel like my history is AD's history, audio descriptions history, because through the years, then film and video started to really come to the fore. Now, WGBH did it many, many years ago. They always had done it and they had their own way of doing it. And that was great. But all of a sudden, there needed to be more because there's a law now that says that television shows have to be described. So bully for us, right? And so I was working with a young woman who had been doing a lot of television shows, and she chose to move back to her home country. She was lived abroad. So she was going home, and it was right before COVID. When she left, she handed over all of her work to me. So I'm doing more film and television now. And that kept me really going during these COVID years. And now live theater is back, and who knows what's going to happen. But that's kind of been my journey of audio description and how I've done so many different kinds of things. And the scripts that I learned to do in the national parks have helped me do the scripts in film. And the live theater I've been doing has helped me in the other kinds of live off the cuff kind of things that I have to do, and help me in film. So it kind of all gathers together. And I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to have learned and done all of these kinds of different things.
You had mentioned that those different kinds of audio description fed into each other. I'm wondering about how a writer who has no idea about audio description, if they were to be introduced to it for the very first time, could you share with them some of the similarities or differences about what's unique about AD, or maybe some of the similarities as far as writing? Because, I think about writing. It could be poetry. It could be a script for a television series. It could be a novel. It could be a memoir. And here's this audio description, which is its really own unique kind of writing. How would you share with a writer what audio description writing is like?
Actually, that is a fascinating question because one of the very first describers that I ever trained was a writer. And that person was what I think of as being an intrinsic audio describer. They already knew how to describe because they already knew how to write and how to put things down on paper that was real description. And when you think about Chandler, what was his name? The guy who did all the mysteries. He wrote the greatest descriptions of people, not really good audio descriptions because they were not objective, but he would write these flowery descriptions of people, painting pictures of them. But the other thing about audio description, though, is it's not writing. It's not poetry. It's not novels. It's more like writing for a textbook in that it's succinct and it's based on what you're seeing. So it's not on anything that you're making up or that you're trying to make extra special or anything like that. You're not trying to be poetic about it. Occasionally you get a little poetic about it, but most of the time you're trying to just state the facts, ma'am. So it's almost more like journalism because you're saying exactly what you're seeing and you're saying it in a succinct manner and you're using vivid words and you're trying to paint a picture so they will see something in their imagination, not something that you are telling them is, but something that they will see. So that's a challenge. But I think that writers have a much better idea of how to create succinct kind of writing. A lot of them do. But I wouldn't, if you were a poet or if you like to do real flowery things or, some writers, I would say, no, just don't try. Generally, I prefer writers. And a lot of people, when we were first training people said, well, you should train the actors. They know what they're doing. I mean, actors want to be actors. They want to have their voices heard. And I tried working with actors for a little while, only actors, and it didn't work out so well. Describers can come from writers. They can come from people who are doing the administration, who understand the theater or the museum or whatever it is that they're working with. They understand the content. They understand the subject. But actors have their own way of looking at things, and you want it to be objective. So overall, that's not for everybody. Some people are pretty good, but overall.
When it comes to a challenge in audio description, does anything specifically come to mind of something that you faced as a challenge that you're really proud of how you overcame?
Oh my, what proud of how I overcame it. My God. I think audio description is a challenge every single time you do it. I have a team here in Los Angeles of audio describers that we describe in theaters. We split up the theaters and we support each other and we help each other with the pre-show notes and all that. But nobody would do Hamilton but me because they were frightened. It's a big show. It's a challenging show because there's so much patter in it and then there's some silent time. So I've been really training them both to do Hamilton. We've been working on it since we've had an opportunity, since it's been at the Pantages, and they're doing really, really well at it. But that's not really my biggest challenge. I think my biggest challenge is getting theaters to do audio description, getting live theaters to do audio description. They do not understand the importance of serving all of their patrons. And they will do sign interpreting. They will do captioning. I have nothing against that. I think that's great. I'm so excited about that. But the very last thing that they will choose to do is audio description. And audio description is not all that expensive and it's not very complicated. You just need to find describers and we're right here. So hello, find us. But that has been the most challenging thing. And yet through the years, I've been here in LA 20 years now. We have all the major theaters doing it now. So I guess I could be excited about that. And my team keeps saying, Deb, you're the one who's done it. And I'm like, I did? Did I do that? Oh, I guess I did. I kind of nudged at them for years and years. Hey, we're still here, but we're still here. You should do this. We're here. And some of the theaters kind of went, don't you have any competition? No, there's no one else. No one else wants to do this. This job is hard. So eventually we have gotten to do all the theaters, which I'm very happy about. The other thing that I think is challenging is doing training, is having an opportunity to create time and space for people to be trained and then go and do audio description wherever they are. Because it's not just training. You can learn what it is. You can learn the core skills and the do's and don'ts and how to do pre-show notes. But until you actually get into a theater and get into a museum and get into a film and are able to do the description over a period of time and be reviewed. I've been working on this for 30 years and it is a challenge every single time. Every single time. I have some really good people that are out there now and they're really going for it. And I'm so proud of them. But it's, for every 12 that I've trained, 3 have come out of every single group. I don't know why, but that is just the way that it always is. 3. It's always 3. It's so strange. But they keep on. You have to have a fire in your belly about doing audio description. So those are my 2 biggest challenges. And I'm still working on them.
I hear it. And how great to be able to have seen success in both live theater and in your training, to see that it's a process, but it's still happening. It's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I love that you emphasize the practice. I find that a lot of people do have assumptions about, oh, once you know it, you know it. And the idea of a professional football player, I love this analogy because I'm not a professional football player and I'm not a sports person, but knowing that they are training and constantly training and working on their muscles, it seems like that's always a nice parallel to audio description. And people are like, well, it's just audio description. And it's not just audio description.
No.
Would you be able to share anything else to our audience that you'd think that they'd like to know more about audio description? Maybe some behind the scenes thing that you think would be helpful that you could share publicly?
There's so many things. There's so many things. What comes to my mind first is to kind of keep an open mind. Keep an open mind about things. If you become a describer, always train. Always train. Get with people that you know that are describers. Ask them for their thoughts and opinions, get together, share information. That has helped me so much. I was alone in Atlanta for a long time doing audio description until I trained people. And I trained people because I ran a business called Special Audiences. And that was our business, was making sure that people had access. So I did train because I had to do it for a little while just on my own. But on your own is not an easy thing. So you need other people to give you feedback and to say, yeah, you talk too much during the show, or, please stop talking about the stage direction. That doesn't make any sense. And you're taking us out of what needs to happen. And, just those kinds of things. And then I needed to be able to give that same kind of feedback to people. So there's the working with people stuff, but there's also continuing to have an excitement about the kinds of things you're describing and how you're doing it. And you just have to keep learning. You have to just keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. Like you said about football players, I'm glad to know that. But in football players' cases, I don't think they can do it into their 60s and 70s. And I have a woman now who I trained who's in her 80s. I just trained her recently because she wanted to learn, and she's doing great. So don't ever think that you can't learn this. It's always an ongoing thing. But yeah, I think it's the learning and the training and the being a describer.
And I love that you brought it back again, because those are one of the first three things that you mentioned about what you love about audio description.
Yeah.
And if we could go back to one of those things that I think you're alluding to when it comes to the feedback that you get, that openness to feedback, that when it comes to relating to the audiences, that connection with the audiences is imperative. That's why you're doing it. Can you describe your connection to the audience or other blind professionals as far as how that relationship works?
Well, I've been really lucky, especially here in LA, because I've really gotten to know a lot of the people who are professionals and who are blind in this society. And I've gotten some really good direct feedback from them, for one thing. But I've also been able to teach them about audio description. And others of my colleagues have been able to teach them. And that's important because what I think some people feel is if you are blind, then you know all about it and you know how to do it. And at the very, very beginning, there were some people who we had to listen just as a test. And we had them as audience members. And I said, so here are some of the rules of it, and this is what we go by. And one of them said, well, I don't mind if you say someone is beautiful. And I said, well, what does that mean to you? And then what does it mean to the person sitting next to you? And what does that mean to the person on the other side? What is beautiful may not be the same. So why don't I describe what she looks like? And he went, oh, yeah, I never thought about that. Oh, okay. And from then on, he was open to learning more about how he could be a better kind of advocate for us, because he knew there were rules that we were going by to help him better. That I have found to be really important. And then also really listening to folks who are blind to hear what kinds of things they do want to hear and don't want to hear. And sometimes you have to kind of mix that a little bit because you get all kinds of audiences. I can't in any one audience talk just to one person. I have to talk to everybody. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. But that's why we have the do's and don'ts and the rules and, all that kind of thing.
Very good. And I love that you went into that nuance there, that connection is a two-way street, that it is a give and take relationship, especially with all the different aspects. There is no, within the rules, there is no one size fits all. There's no perfect script.
Yeah.
In other words, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. But I do know the do's and don'ts were made by people who are blind.
Nice.
Yeah.
How could we follow you on social media? Do you have anything that you'd be comfortable sharing with our audience?
Well, I have a website. I have a beautiful website. It's www.audiodescriptionsolutions.com. I'm sorry to say, I am not a big Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't keep up with a lot of those things because frankly, I'm too busy doing audio description.
And that's what the website's for.
But you can always contact me on that website, and I do respond. And I will be at the LEAD conference this summer, and I'm very excited about that. Raleigh, North Carolina. Finally, it's been 2 years. We can't wait to get to Raleigh. And I am available on the web. I've done a lot of webinars. I just finished one like an hour ago for Yale, and we'll do another one for them. And then I'll go live and do some things for them soon, I hope, as soon as we can do that again. But I do a lot of webinars also for individuals. I've had people from Russia, Greece, all over the world say, would you train me? Yeah, I'll give you what I can give you.
Very good. And talking about things that are coming up with this LEADS conference, let's just as a postscript to our conversation here, where would you love to see audio description headed? If you could have your dream world.
Oh, I would love to see every live theater, especially the Broadway tours. And I say that because those are the ones that everybody just really wants to see to start off with. Every live theater should do audio description. There is such a thing as like a recorded audio description. That is okay. It's not great, It's not perfect, but it's okay. And if that starts touring, that's for those theaters that don't have live, that's fine. I would hope that if they have live, and they might do that in addition to it, that's great. Let's keep the live though, because live is different. And I would love to see every national park, and I would love to see every museum have it, and have it be something that's built in to every single cultural organization and every single television and movie, and have it be quality, and have it be, well-trained audio describers that are committed to their craft and not committed to their ego. There are a lot of audio describers who are committed to their ego. And I'm sorry, but there's no way you can do this right and be committed to your ego. So, not mentioning any names, and I'm not thinking of anybody in particular, but I do know from my experiences that you have to be dedicated to the craft. And I think that's one of the most important things. So,
And thank you for sharing all of that. And it's wonderful to hear about that built-in factor to all the aspects of audio description, theater, museum, national parks, TV shows, movies, that this is just part of accessibility. And it seems like with the changes in technology, with the changes in the culture, that these things are happening not as fast as we like, but they are happening fast. So that's very exciting.
yeah,
Thanks so much for joining us, Deborah.
absolutely. This has been really fun.
Same here. Thank you.
Okay.